This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and does not substitute for professional medical advice. Please seek a medical professional or healthcare provider if you're seeking any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Thanks, everyone.
All right, we're here. Cheers. Holiday drinks, even though I'm not having a holiday drink. Chestnut praline is my favorite, though.
I'm surprised that you didn't get that.
It's just very sugary. And I'm like not...
What you're getting now? I mean, what are you drinking
It's just a non-fat. Oh my God, I can't even remember my orders. Almond milk, sugar-free. That's what it is, not non-fat.
Okay.
Almond milk, sugar-free vanilla latte.
Oh, okay.
Simple.
Yeah.
And it hits.
Yeah, absolutely. I have my typical caramel macchiato because I'm a basic bitch like that, so yeah, whatever. Anyway, welcome. She's back
I'm
from Canada.
More relaxed.
Yes, you needed it.
Canada was so nice.
I know. Canada is beautiful.
I want to
Photo
go
back there. Yeah.
Oh, that's Canada?
Yeah, but that's the Banff region. You went to like the other side of Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is...
You went to Montreal and Toronto.
Oh, that I really want to go there. I'm
was
dying
so
to go to
nice.
Montreal.
Montreal was beautiful.
Yeah, that's what everybody says, that it looks like Europe.
Maybe that's why I liked it. Everyone keeps telling me
Yeah.
they're like, you like it because it was like very European.
Everybody tells me the same thing. It's like you're at Europe, but you didn't go overseas.
Exactly.
Pretty much, it's
Exactly.
it's pretty crazy.
Loved it.
But today we're going to be talking about anxiety because you all voted for it and we're here.
And we are here to talk
deliver.
about something that every single person suffers with.
Honestly. And you may not suffer from it every day, like me, but you may just suffer from it occasionally because of work, because of stress, because I don't know, name it. But it's a very, very
I'm
common
really
thing.
trying to think of someone that doesn't have some sort of level of anxiety.
My husband.
Every day. Really?
Yeah.
Every day? No, that's not true. Because he's like me. He just has anxiety about different things.
Exactly. Like his anxiety will jump in like when he's working, something like that. But during the day, he's just not fazed about anything.
He's like the dog.
Yeah. He's just like, okay, let's go. Why are you freaking out? Can you calm down? Every time he tells me to calm down, I swear to God, I want to choke something. Anyway, it's like men of you listening out there, never tell a woman to calm down because you're doing the opposite. Who has anxiety?
Someone that has anxiety every single day. I think anxiety gets worse as you get older because you
true.
start overthinking things.
Very true.
That's why kids, they sleep amazing.
I know. And it's
Because
so
they have zero worries.
Yeah, you're
It
absolutely right.
means no worries for the rest of your days.
We already started with the tangent.
I
That's
love
great.
that movie.
I know. It's the Lion King, and Timon and Pumbaa.
Okay,
you can't
that
go
is
wrong.
that's the definition of ADHD. That's going to be another episode that we need to do.
100%. And I know I
Wow.
have that.
I
bad.
can't believe I just caught that on camera.
Yeah. And
That is so
we'll see it back,
so bad. Okay.
And I feel like as I'm getting older, I have more ADHD.
I literally was just in the middle of a sentence
I know.
and started singing The Lion King.
I don't know what's happening. I don't know, but us millennials are really suffering with ADHD
Wow.
or whatever. Like
That
we
was
really
a
are.
harsh realization
And I
for
mean,
me.
you can't blame us. We're going through. I mean, we've gone through so much in our lifetime, and we're not.
I
even,
know.
We're not. I'm not even. We're not even 35 yet. And how many things have we gone through in our lifetime? World crises type of.
Yeah, like world crisis type of things.
Like,
pandemics,
the
Twin
towers.
Yeah.
Now this war.
The wars. Yeah.
The wars. Afghanistan.
wars,
like
yeah.
so many of them.
Russia.
We could go on. Yeah.
Freaking, it just
Like everything.
crazy.
There's always something. There's always something in our generation.
Insane.
So can you blame us for having ADHD? Like our brains just need a break. Our brains are just like
Our
we're
brains
gonna
are like, Jesus Christ.
dissociate for a second, even if it's in the middle of an anxiety sentence.
And imagine having like all of this, but as a kid.
I don't know.
poor kids.
Yeah,
Okay,
seriously.
anyways.
So like we said, we're going to be talking about anxiety today because you all voted for it, which
Yeah.
honestly makes a lot of sense because there's a lot about anxiety. Like I have a lot, but we're going to try to break it down for you guys, simplify it. We're not going to be talking about like chemicals and neurotransmitters and all that. We could, but we won't.
Yeah.
So
We can like touch up on it, but not
exactly
anything crazy.
We'll break it down Barney style for you guys like we typically do.
And we've been getting a lot of really good feedback of, you know,
Yeah.
it's so, have you, okay, I've thought about, wow, we can cut this out, but my head is in so many different places that I can't even form a sentence.
Dude, it happens. It's fine. Do you want a drink?
I think I need a drink, Jules.
Yeah.
I think my brain is so like,
Just so you could
tone it down.
calm
Yeah.
down a bit. I could get you a drink. Let's
Okay,
get a drink.
let's get a drink.
Okay.
Jesus Christ.
We cannot. I see. You're not the problem. It's also me. Why didn't I freaking? Anyway, we are seriously trying to get this episode rolling.
Maybe it's, you know, it's like the anxiety vibes.
Yeah, I think it's that. We gotta push through this, guys.
Yeah.
We literally were just talking right now for 5 to 10 minutes, and I didn't press record again.
My phone started acting up. Okay, anyways, so we were talking about
DSM-5.
DSM-5 criteria. If you need to have a diagnosis of something, for example,
Psychiatry wise.
yes, psychiatric wise, or mental wise, depression, anxiety, anorexia, any of those things, usually that falls under something called, or we try to diagnose it by following criteria, and we use what's called DSM criteria. And the latest version is version 5, which is why we say DSM-5. Okay. So for DSM-5 criteria for anxiety, it's basically a group of mental disorders that causes excessive nervousness, fears, and apprehension or worry.
Right.
Me every day.
Well, me too. I mean,
Yeah. So there's like mild anxiety and then there's like a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's a lot of people out there that just have baseline anxiety and
Yeah.
no one ever tells them that this is anxiety.
yeah, and they just feel like, okay, at least for us Cubans, they're like, oh, she's a very nervous person, and muy nerviosa, or
Yeah.
tiene los nervios alterados, or something
Yeah.
like that. Anxiety, so it's a cultural thing too of like, oh no, she's just like that, like she's a very nervous, like frantic person or whatever. And
So
it's like,
funny you say that. When I was in medical school, I had my first bout of anxiety.
Right.
And I had a couple of panic attacks before, but I never had like baseline anxiety. And I remember when I had a panic attack, I had no idea what was going on. I thought that I was dying, and I remember telling my mom like, "No, my heart hurts, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'm gonna die." And my mom literally looked at me and she's like, "Yo tengo una pastilla para eso," and she gave me a pill. I still don't know till this day what she gave me,
oh my god,
and it went away. And
Yeah.
I was so confused the next day. I was like, "What was that?"
it's
And then
probably a benzo.
I don't know. I still don't know to this day what she gave me.
Yeah,
Un transene, whatever that.
bro, transcend is like amazing. Transcend is amazing. Is that how you say it in English? I don't even know.
We don't use transene.
Really?
So I think that's like Cuban or wherever they got it
I
from.
remember that I had the worst anxiety about a physics exam that I was gonna take, and I could not figure out like how to do a certain freaking, I don't remember what, like a formula or some bullshit. I couldn't. I was so anxious about it, and I was freaking out. My mom gave me literally like the tiniest little bit of transene. Dude, I was able to figure that out the next day.
I don't even know.
It was all anxiety, and I don't know what is in that. I don't know what transene is. We should look that up.
We should look it up.
Treat partial seizures, sudden alcohol withdrawal.
It's a benzo.
It's a benzo. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm telling you, it worked wonders. I
Well,
was
it
able to-
worked. Well, I don't even know if that's what she gave me, but probably. I don't know. But
It
anyways,
works.
so I had my first bout of anxiety when I went to medical school, and I remember telling my mom like, no, like I don't feel like myself, and it was weird. I'd never experienced it before, and sometimes anxiety doesn't really present like the like
Right.
how people think it is. Sometimes you just don't feel like yourself.
And it's internal.
And
like,
it's internal,
you
and
don't
it's
have
very
to-
hard to describe. So my mom was like, "Esa hupa, esa hupa,
What is that?
upa." I don't know. Fucking, she just like put a word to it, and she was like, "Upa," like almost like you don't
I've
have that
never
shit.
heard of UPA.
Yeah, she goes, "Esa hupa." So now, like, as a joke, like me and my mom, like whenever I have some sort of like mild degree of anxiety, I'm like, mom, I have the upais.
It's upaing.
It's upaing.
Damn, that's a new one. I had not heard of upa. I gotta ask my mom if she knows about upa. She should, because
I
she
don't think so. I think it was
upa,
just like something
like,
that
personified.
my mom decided to make up or something. I don't know.
I don't know, but the upas.
The upas,
Anxiety,
yeah.
so yeah. And so these disorders, like you said, they alter like just how you feel, how you react, how you process information.
Usually you're kind of
like,
shaky. You don't remember a lot of things since you're so nervous. You're not really paying attention to what you're doing. So sometimes it can be associated with memory loss.
Yeah.
A lot of times, like, you lose sleep because
Literally,
it's so much. When you're anxious, your body releases a lot of hormones, like and different type of mood altering substances. So like I guess a good example would be like cortisol, adrenaline. When your body is in like this like fight or flight mode, that's what's going to be elevated, and that's that's a good thing, because when you're in that kind of situation, you kind of want to have those hormones. It's kind of like a protective effect, or maybe like evolutionary. But if you have chronic elevation of those things all the time, you're gonna start feeling some symptoms of anxiety for sure.
Right. Okay. And then, those were some of the physical symptoms. And then, like, for instance, I also get like stomach aches.
Oh yeah.
My stomach just
Diarrhea.
Exactly. So physically, not just mentally does it manifest, but it also manifests like physically in sleep, like you said, chest pain, like you had said, like the heart palpitations, the stomach aches and stomach problems. I had them all the freaking time while I was in college.
Well,
all the freaking time.
So your gut holds a lot of serotonin.
That's why. Okay.
So that's why when you have anxiety, a lot of people have stomach aches. They feel nauseous, vomiting, diarrhea, and it's all because of that. It's all tied together.
It was awful, but yeah. So anxiety disorders are the most common mental health disorders in the United States, affecting nearly 30% of adults at some point in their lives.
That number has to be wrong.
It has to be more than that, right?
Yeah.
When I found that, I'm like,
I don't believe that number.
It's gonna be like 30%.
I don't know if maybe when they're saying reported exactly
and diagnosed, because a lot of people don't.
And now in this day and age, this is like very much talked about.
Oh yeah,
wellness is very much talked about.
But it's very new.
But it's very new because back then it was like you told someone you had anxiety and it was, you're crazy.
Exactly. And I mean, even still now, my mom is literally anxiety personified as a person. She's walking anxiety, and she doesn't. I mean, no, I don't need to see a doctor for that or whatever. Like, I mean, it's one of those.
I think everyone needs a therapist.
I think therapy is wonderful, but she won't go to a therapist to talk about it, and it's part of that generation of like, I don't need to see a therapist for this. Like, this isn't like.
That same time around med school, my dad went to go visit me. And I was already having the anxiety. It was part of the reason why he came up, because he was kind of worried about me. And then he spent just like a weekend together. My anxiety was so bad that my dad was sitting in front of me and he was talking to me and I was in another world.
Damn.
Like, it didn't feel like I was there.
Like you dissociated.
Yeah, like I dissociated. And then and this is like, some people are probably hearing this and they're like, holy shit, like we would have never known.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the sad part about anxiety. Like, you actually don't know like how many people are like feeling like that, because we're all really good at putting on this like
a mask
and that it's all okay, and in the inside we're like
dying.
About to have a mental breakdown.
Exactly.
And I actually did have a panic attack in the middle of a Walmart because I went with him. And
with him?
Yes, with my dad.
Oh, shit.
So we went to a Walmart.
Oh, God.
And he was sweetest thing ever. He's like, let's go to Walmart. I'm going to like kind of like, like buy a couple things so that I leave you like stocked up. And then I was like, okay. And then I got to Walmart. Walmart's massive. Yeah. There's a lot of people and everything.
Too much stimulus.
Way too much. Yeah. So I had a panic attack in the Walmart, and we had to leave. And for the first time ever, my dad looked at me and he's like, maybe you should see someone.
Damn. And your dad's like old school Cuban, like
Old school
like
Cuban.
typical, like our parents.
He didn't believe me until he saw me have
Damn.
a
I could
panic
only
attack.
imagine like the conversation he had with your mom of like, hey, I saw it. Like she's not joking. Like she's not
And he
exaggerating.
tried to like not, make a
Aw.
big deal out of it, but he's like, maybe you should talk to someone.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was actually kind of happy
Yeah.
that he told me that, because I
Yeah.
started laughing in the car, and then I was like, it was pretty bad, right? Like my panic attack was bad, and he's like, you freaked out.
Oh.
Anyways,
But oh man, yeah. I mean, it sucks. I had one anxiety attack in front of my mom, and she's the type of person that if she doesn't know what to do with me, mind you, she's my mom. You would think that after 34 years, like she would know what to do with me, but she doesn't. So we were in San Antonio, and I'm just like, I need to like separate myself because you know when it's coming.
Yeah.
Like there's a
Yeah.
little bit, like a minute maybe if you're lucky of like it building up, and then it's like, at least for me, I'm like, it's coming, it's coming,
Stop
it's coming.
breathing.
So I'm like, okay, it's coming. I'm gonna go. So at that time in San Antonio, we had a garage, and I'm like, she can't see this because she's not gonna know what to do. So I went ahead, and luckily Mario was there that day or at that moment, whatever. And I'm in the garage, and I'm like, and I'm going through the
whole thing.
classic panic attack, you know. And I'm there like whatever. And then she walks in because I guess she saw me like just sprint to the garage, and she's but what's wrong with you? And I'm like, leave me alone. It's fine. Leave me alone. You don't understand. Whatever. And then she's like, she just closes the door. And then after that, I just see Mario coming in. Your mom's like super worried about you. What's going on? And I'm like, I'm having a panic attack. And I can't breathe. I'm choking. The whole thing and whatever. Mario's like, calm down. Calm down. And I'm like, what the fuck did my mom say to you? And he's like, she's freaking out. She didn't want to show you, but she's freaking out. She thinks you're dying. And I'm like,
I feel like I'm dying.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, I literally feel like I can't breathe right now, but anyway, but yeah, that was like that time frame that I had like a lot of, those episodes, and they suck. Anybody that's
they're
had
terrible.
panic attacks, you know what I mean? And if you haven't had a panic attack,
Good for you.
yes,
You're succeeding in life.
you
at some
are
point.
doing
Yeah.
something right in your life,
Yeah.
But to kind of touch up at least on how it feels different for everybody, but at least for me, it felt like choking, like I couldn't, like I felt literally like there was a ball in
Yeah.
my throat that would inhibit me from like talking and like breathing really, so I would hyperventilate, and that's how sometimes people, like a lot of the times, they hyperventilate and then they pass out, from it. But that's why they tell you, try to calm your breathing,
Yeah.
concentrate on your breathing, to get yourself out of that,
Might have
state
been
and whatever,
different, like the times that I've had it. Luckily, I haven't had one in a really long time, and I'm very
Me too.
thankful for
Yeah,
it,
knock
because
on
I
wood.
hate the way that feels.
it's horrible.
But like at first, I used to have chest pain,
Oh yeah.
like palpitations.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I would feel dizzy. One time, like when a person wants to cry and they're holding it back until that moment where they just explode.
Yeah, and you can't stop.
And I can't stop it. That happened to me another
That
time.
happened to me, yeah.
And I wasn't even like sad about anything. It was just the anxiety.
Right.
It was so much
Yeah.
that it just like I felt like my eyes were like bulging out of my head.
Yeah. It sucks.
And then the feeling of not breathing is the worst.
the worst. I hate that.
And it's like you take a deep breath and you don't feel like you're like filling your lungs.
exactly. You don't feel like you're actually breathing, but you are. But
You
you
are.
don't
Yeah.
feel like you are. But it's strange and it's horrible. But anyway, so generalized anxiety disorder, or AKGAD, is characterized by persistent and excessive worry about a variety of things. People with GAD may worry about their health, their finances, their relationship, or in the world in general, like us millennials.
Yeah.
We have a lot to worry about these
Yeah.
days, unfortunately.
Everyone has their
I mean, there's so many things to worry about.
There's so many things to worry about.
like,
and everyone
particular to
has
everybody.
and everyone puts importance to different things.
Absolutely.
So like what you're having anxiety about, it's like Mario. It's like
Yeah.
he's like, why are you worrying? But
Yeah.
then like Mario thinks of like other things, and you're like, why are you worrying about
Exactly. It's just particular to each person.
that? Each person, yeah.
Absolutely. Social anxiety disorder, or SAD, SAD. It's pretty that's pretty spot on. Like
Yeah.
is characterized by intense fear of social situations. People with SAD may worry about being judged, embarrassed, or humiliated in social situations. Me.
Definitely had some social anxiety when we
Me.
started our podcast.
Yeah.
I was like,
I know, we all do, and I still do to this day when I do like stupid like TikToks or whatever. Like I'm just like,
But I just feel like the reason we do that is because we were just raised in a different generation,
100%.
in a different world. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the people that are really popular right now on Instagram, on social media in general, are people that probably when they started doing these things, they're like, oh, well, that's kind of stupid. You know what I mean? But they just kept on doing it.
Yeah.
And then it became normal.
Yeah.
And, it's just a different, what we were raised as, like we would think that that's weird. But now the generation of now, that's like normal for them. Like it's normal to go and record a what I eat in a day video.
100%.
Or like what I do in my day, like this is like spend the day with me to go shopping. And for us, like, I feel like a lot of people are like, why are you doing that? That's like so weird. Like no one cares.
I know. And now it's like, why are you not doing it?
Why are you not doing it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I literally saw a video about that. It was either last night or the night before, and I was like,
Sorry,
"This
guys,
is so
I can't
interesting."
stop fixing my hair.
You do you, girl.
Uh-huh.
Patreon people are the ones that are seeing this.
Okay.
Now. Anyway, everybody else is listening to it. Anyway, so the video that I saw was super interesting about how different like millennials and Gen Zers are exactly about that, and it all relates to anxiety because of millennials. When we were growing up, we were the first generation to have social media.
Yeah.
We really were, with MySpace, then Facebook,
Photo Bucket,
all of that
was like a form of social media.
But then, since it was so new, people would instill this hard fear on us of like, you can't be on social media because you will never get a job, or schools cannot find about, your social media.
I changed my name on
Me too.
Facebook.
Me too.
And still my name, I don't know if I have my name still changed or not.
On Facebook, mine is different.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because we were like instilled to like, oh, you can't be public. You can't do this. You can't do that. You have to have like some sort of like,
yes,
you
have to be anonymous online.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So, and we were instilled with that. And now Gen Zers are like, it's weird if you don't have social media.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I'm not going to hire you because I don't know you.
Yeah.
Like, where's your social media? I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, it was the total opposite. It was like, no, the job is not going to hire you. No college is going to take you if they see you out having fun in a boat.
Post.
Exactly. So it's so different. And that's where a lot of our anxieties with this right now with social media and everything comes from, because we were literally brought up to like fear it. Like we were the first ones to have it, and then we also had to fear it.
Yeah. So crazy you say that. And it just goes to show how like different generations influence the way we think. A perfect example of that is when I was in residency. Some people know this story. But when I was in residency, I actually had an attending sit me down and was like almost like giving me advice for different things. And I was like, and I remember thinking to myself that it was weird.
Okay.
Because she wasn't like the typical attending to like just sit with me and talk to me. And I was kind of just, and I was already like in my second year of residency.
Okay.
And she starts talking to me about like, like what do I want to do with the rest of my future and what I'm going to like do after I graduate.
Like,
and I thought that she was just, I thought that a lot of our attendings do that to kind of like help us out and stuff like that. And make us think, which I was very appreciative for. However, she was like, you need to be, whatever you want to do in your life, you need to be careful. Okay. This is how different generations, this is how different it is. She's like, you need to be very careful about the things that you post on social media.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that recently I had gone to a festival. Okay.
Oh.
And mind you, like the photos that I had and everything were totally fine.
Yeah. And she means like a music festival. Right?
Yeah. And I go to music festival. Everyone knows that about me.
Yeah.
So,
I don't see why that's wrong.
Okay. So, but it's different generations, she's different.
Yeah.
So she was like, "Oh, you need to be very careful about the photos that you post." Mind you, when it comes to my social media, I'm so like strict about anything that goes on
You
there
hardly even
because
post.
I don't even post.
She really
But
doesn't.
but I'm still careful because of how we were raised.
Of course, of
It's just like
course.
ingrained into us.
And you're a doctor, so then it's even more like,
But they saw like what other people are posting, but at the end of the day, still not anything bad,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
But she told me, she was like, "Oh, you need to be very careful about what you post on social media because that can affect the way that others view you professionally." And then so when your attending is telling you this, you kind of just look at them and you stay quiet and you kind of just nod your head because it's your like attending.
Yeah.
You have this like unspoken respect.
Of course,
right?
it's like it's the levels
The
of
ladder.
Yeah, the ladder.
Right? Like
exactly.
I'm a resident, right?
yeah.
And she's my attending.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see
She's your
her.
superior.
Exactly. I'm gonna see her every day. So I'm just gonna listen and nod my head.
Yeah.
And you know what she ends up telling me? She's like, yeah, because women, okay, you're a female, okay? She's like, you're a female and women need to live up to certain social standards in the medical world. And I was like, so let me backtrack. Yes. And we're like definitely like going off track on what anxiety is, but
This causes anxiety.
Yes, it does. It's like a huge cause. It was a huge cause of my anxiety that day for sure.
At that moment, I'd be like, "What did you see? Did you see something in my social media? Like, what are you talking about?"
But
Like,
the worst part is that she wasn't trying to say that like, like medicine is or was and still is in some specialties. It's a boys club. It was a boys club. Women got in it's now like pretty much like 50-50.
Yeah.
But in certain specialties, it is still almost like a boys club. Yeah. And I remember a lot of my friends that were females trying to go into male dominated
like
specialties. Yeah. Like ortho
big time,
and all those things. Yeah. It was really hard and it still exists. Mm-hmm. So, or urology and all. So it still exists. Mm-hmm. And, so I don't feel like the way that she was telling me was not that, hey, like, like we need to, like keep on pushing for females in medicine. What she was trying to tell me is that, be careful because we need to like have a certain standard and like all these things to like be in med. And I was just like, you're a female, like
yeah, you're not helping the cause.
I was literally shocked. I was like, what are you talking about? Why are you telling me
You're like
this?
doing the opposite right now by telling me this.
And I'm not gonna like out her or anything, but she had her own social life, which was very not traditional. Right? And I was like, this is crazy that she is telling me this.
That's such bullshit.
Yeah.
That's such bullshit.
But whatever, I didn't take it personal. Like, I knew that maybe she was just trying to look out for me in some sort of sense. But oh my God, the way that she like...
It's a generational thing.
The way that she like delivered that message was horrible.
Horrible delivery.
Horrible. Yeah.
Horrible execution of that. Like, did not come across probably the way that she intended it. In no means, but
yeah.
Thank God she told that to us, like you, a millennial, because us millennials are known to be a lot more chill and whatever, and like people like boomers telling us shit. Yeah. But because if she would have told that to a Gen Z, a Gen Zer would have been probably like, "Where's your phone?" Probably been like, "Can you repeat that again?"
No, yeah, and
I'm gonna post it.
And post it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which all power to them, bro. Like Gen Z is doing the fucking damn thing, like whatever. I mean, go do that anyway. All right, so back to what we're doing. So what we were talking about, panic disorders, it's characterized by everything that we had explained. Sudden and unexpected panic attacks, but some people suffer from it on a regular basis, and that's horrible. And they are episodes of intense fear that come up quickly, and then they reach their peak within minutes, and everything we explained earlier about our own experiences with panic attacks. Mm-hmm. And then phobias, which we did a whole episode on. And it's part of anxieties. So they're intense and irrational fears of specific objects or even situations, because you could have a social phobia, which sounds horrible, but yeah. And then people could go to great lengths to avoid that particular thing or place, situation, whatever it is. So So how can we help this out? How can we treat it?
So anxiety, there's a lot, and we've come a long way
Yeah.
with anxiety and the thought of anxiety and kind of how I think the main thing is to figure out what's causing your anxiety and try to get to the root of the problem.
Yeah.
And usually that takes some sort of type of therapy.
Yeah.
Okay. And there are millions of types of therapies. So for those of you thinking out there that therapy, when I say the word therapy, I'm not like talking about sitting in front of someone and talking about your feelings, which is what usually people think about. I'm talking about any type of therapy. That could be yoga, that could be music therapy, that
Yeah.
could be dance therapy, that could be drawing, that could be art, that can be
Journaling.
any journaling.
Going-
Julie and I were talking about voice journaling right now.
If you don't like
too.
to write because it takes too much time or whatever,
Painting,
dude,
creating,
grab your
like-
phone, talk to it, record it.
Yeah,
you know, or even
exactly.
video record yourself too. However it is that you want to do it.
Yeah,
Go out
breathe,
for
meditation, mindfulness.
walk.
Yeah.
I go out for walks.
Yes. So, well, no, there's a lot of a lot of science behind that too, like going out for walks, nature, and all of that.
Yeah.
It has shown to improve anxiety. There's even a lot of reports of people walking out barefoot to feel the ground like on their bare feet.
Grounding.
There's something about grounding
Yeah.
that alleviates a lot of that anxiety. Living in the now, which is mindfulness.
Yeah.
Take 5 minutes and just practice mindfulness.
Yep.
And I remember the first time I started practicing mindfulness and that I started meditating, I did it on oh my God, I can't believe I forgot the name of the app.
Calm.
No. Oh my God, it's gonna bother me.
Happy something.
Headspace.
Headspace. Yes. There you go.
Headspace.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I highly recommend.
We're not sponsored by
Headspace.
them.
No, we're not at all.
We would like
I
to.
use them and I recommend them. And they have 3-minute
Yeah.
meditation. They have 5-minute meditation. They
and they
have
even
10.
have like games and stuff.
No, they've
like,
partnered up now to do runs with Nike.
Oh, really?
And I think this is pretty old already. I
Yeah.
haven't kept up with it. But they partnered up so that when people are running, instead of listening to music,
Yeah.
they're like meditating. It's crazy. Yeah,
That's
the
pretty
world
awesome.
is, it's crazy
Yeah.
like how it's evolved.
That's awesome.
But so for anyone that wants to do that, they're led, so they're like guided meditations.
Yeah.
So you have someone guiding you through things, and it is amazing,
Yeah.
like what they do. Like
That's
they
awesome.
really taught me how to
Yeah.
practice that. But anyways, so yes, so usually go through some sort of therapy, something like that, some reflection, figure out. And a lot of the therapies, what they also do is that when when the anxiety presents itself to you, then what do you do about it in that moment? So they also teach you how to practice, like how to take the anxiety and maybe instead of feeling those negative feelings, turning that into something else. So refocusing that energy onto
Right.
something else, something more positive.
Right. Right.
So, and then also apart from therapies and natural things that you can do, there is pharmacotherapy as well. So pharmacotherapy is usually what we know as like medications, exactly, for anxiety. And I always tell people, like, because I think people will have a bad it's like there's a bad stigma on what medication is. And again, not in this world that we live in anymore.
No.
People are very open about it, which is great.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more anxiety provoking of like trying to keep that from someone else because you're afraid of what they might think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but where I was going with this is basically, that the world that we live in nowadays is like very different. So I'm very happy about that because I think people are learning how to handle their anxiety better because there's not so much stigma behind it.
Exactly. And I truly, like, for instance, I take medication for it. I take medication for anxiety, depression, because for me, and it's different for people. Like people could just have anxiety only or depression only.
Yeah.
But for instance, me, I have them that they commingle. So like if one goes up, the other one goes up. If one goes down, the other one goes down, whatever. They're just commingled. And I take medication for it and honestly changed my life.
Yep.
It's life-changing. It's that important, and it's not like talk to somebody, go through the motions of all of that, and then if that still doesn't work, they will probably be like, well, maybe it's time to like kind of think about medications. And there's a slew of them. There's many of them. The problem is
there's not everyone is the same. So
Exactly.
what works for someone may not work for you. What maybe didn't work for you at the beginning doesn't mean that you can't
Don't
change.
write it off.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
just, and I try to give people a heads up on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
because it's so like, it's so, like I think it's because they finally gather up the
Courage.
to do it.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't go well. So then they're like X'd for life.
And that can't be. I was guilty of that. I took one medication years ago and it was awful. It just didn't work for me. And I knew people that it did wonders for. Like it definitely worked for them, but for me it was awful. So I did that. I was like, forget it. Meds just don't work for me. I revisited the idea, I think a year ago now, and I tried two. At first, the first one wasn't really like the thing. The second one, that's it. It's the one that I've still been on.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, life-changing. So I recommend it like full-heartedly. I know it takes, at least for our generation and generations prior to us, like it takes time to like accept it, to be like, yeah, I
And
need
we're
this.
we're so programmed now to like want results now.
Immediately, yeah.
Like we want immediate instant gratification.
Which is the other thing about these meds, that they take like a certain amount of weeks to
at
kick in.
least 4 to 6 weeks to even kick in.
So a lot of people just stop it like a week or two into it
Yeah.
because they're like, why am I taking this if I don't feel anything? But
Exactly.
that's not how it works. You got to give it like at least a month.
Yeah.
For me, it was definitely a month.
Yeah.
For sure.
4 to 6 weeks, exactly.
For sure. So
And sometimes
it's difficult.
and sometimes you need to remember, we're not gonna like slam you with a high dose either. We're gonna start slow and low, and then we're gonna see how that goes. But and I get it. Like again, we live in an age where we want instant gratification.
Yep.
We want something to work now.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's why there's a lot of people that have addiction to benzodiazepines, because they're anxiolytics that work right immediately.
Yeah.
And
they feel great.
And they feel
feel
listen,
great.
I've
We were
had-
just talking about transcendent.
we were
Like,
just
it feels great.
exactly. These are medications
Yeah.
that are known
Yeah.
to help with
Which
that.
is like Xanax. We're talking about
Yeah.
like Xanax type of.
Xanax, exactly. Alprazolam. There's like different types of anxiolytics that work
Yeah.
immediately, and however, it doesn't do anything to like balance you out. You know what? It balance you out in the moment. Don't get me wrong.
but
Like
then-
you will feel amazing.
Yeah.
You know.
And then right after that, like maybe even the next day or whatever, once it wears off,
And
you're
they're highly addictive
back.
too, which is another thing, which
It's-
is like
that's
very
bad.
dangerous. So
Because to then get off of that is like
exactly, but again, instant gratification. People like that feeling, and they're like, "This is the only thing that works for me." And it's like, yes, we know, like
of course it's gonna
it
work.
works. It works.
Yeah,
you know,
100%.
we know that, but it's not the long term. You know, so So yeah, so what I was saying is that we need to kind of give it a chance, and I get it. It's like going back and forth, and you know, like a lot of people really want that personal connection, which is very difficult because a lot of therapies nowadays are telehealth based. So it's, you know, we're like removing almost like a level of like personalization
Right.
when you can like talk to someone physically,
But in the
just give
other-
it a chance.
But
It's
on the other side, it's easier to access.
super easy
And
to
you could do it
access.
anywhere at any time. You don't have
Yeah.
to like go with traffic in our case.
Yep.
You know, traffic, wait, then sit down.
Yep.
And that takes up like a whole afternoon maybe, or
Yep.
morning or whatever. Now it could take you
It's
20
way
minutes.
more convenient. Like, talk about instant gratification. Instantly, you can talk to a therapist just by a click of a button or an app.
And there's some of them, talking about apps, and there's some of them that you could even like message your therapist. Like literally
text.
texting your therapist, and then that's part of the program, you know, that you sign yourself up to. So there's a million ways to find help for this. Like there really is, you know, and the biggest part of it, I think, you know, is coming to terms that you want this for yourself.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
you want to help yourself out in this case, you know,
And that's
you're-
the hardest step to take. I think when you finally take that step that you admit that you need help and you're finally like ready to receive it, you know, there's like one thing about admitting you need help, and then there's another thing accepting the help.
Yeah, and that's okay. The big part about it too is that if like you feel like it's a failure or it's something wrong with you, no, it's just we're all human. We all have things. It's fine.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you got to go to the doctor for whatever, you know, you go to this type of doctor, you know, or you go to this type of specialist. It's the same kind of
Same thing.
you know, thing. So why is it okay to go every year, for us women at least, you know, to your OB-GYN because you have to do, you know, your routine yearly check, right? Why is that totally fine and you can't see a therapist?
Yep.
It should fall within the same route, you know? And then for men, the same thing. Every year you got to get like, you know, your blood checked or whatever the heck,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So same thing,
Yep.
you know, just check yourself, you know, check in on yourself.
Yep.
Anyway, all right. So how are anxiety and fear different? Because we did touch upon that. And sometimes anxiety kind of has like a blurred line with fear because it kind of feels like fear.
Fear is a symptom of anxiety.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, you're like, oh my God. And you're like all stressed and all those hormones.
We're very
happen,
complex
you know?
humans.
Exactly. Exactly. How are they different? All animals experience fear, but humans uniquely experience anxiety. Why? Because like you just said, we're complex.
Yeah, we have a complex brain, you know, our amygdala starts
Amygdaline.
our hippocampus starts hippocampusing, you know, our hormones start going up and down and mixing all together, and it's complex and there's differences. Like you can have fears, you can have anxiety, you can have both at the same time, you cannot have any of them at the same time.
Yep.
And it's kind of like how you were saying, which is kind of like our next talking point, like what's the difference between anxiety and depression? There's a lot of symptoms that overlap with that as well.
And it's hard to distinguish.
But again, we kind of go back to like what's the root cause of things.
Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yep.
So it's like what came first, like the chicken or the egg? And sometimes you don't even figure that out. You don't.
Yeah.
It's like because by the time that you actually start thinking about things, you're like, I don't even know where to start.
Exactly. So then fear is a response to a direct threat. Okay. So literally like car accident. I don't know. Think of a direct threat. While anxiety is a response to a possible negative outcome in the future, you know, so you're imagining it. And fear is something factual happening on the moment.
Yeah.
Physically actually there. And anxiety, you're imagining it. So the unique element in anxiety is a capacity to imagine a negative or a future outcome. Anxiety can be considered a condition of suffering from imagination, which I found that pretty poetic.
Yeah.
You know?
Suffering from imagination.
Yeah. Because like we humans have imagination. That's what makes us different.
Think.
So you start imagining these things are not even real, you know?
That's why you lose sleep, because you're just thinking and your brain just doesn't know how to turn off.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I started meditating, that's when I first realized when I said, wow, my brain is impossible to turn off.
Yeah.
Because, you know, part of it was like, okay, try to just be blank.
I don't know how to do that.
And I remember the guided meditation would tell me, hey, you know, if you're starting to drift off, focus again on a blank. And I'd be like, oh my God, like,
it's so hard.
It's so hard.
It's like almost impossible for me to do, like
Yeah.
for more than a couple of seconds, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, and talking about imagination is a complex capability that is still largely uncharted territory, as much of our processes and our brain is, to be honest, including its role in anxiety. So, I mean, there's a lot that we don't know still to this day about our brains and how it works. And this is just part of it. Like, we're different from animals because of our imagination, and yet we get these problems because of it too.
I know.
You know, so, but how are anxiety and depression different?
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that can overlap. You can be irritable. You can have insomnia. You can have difficulty concentrating. You can lose sleep. All of those things. And it's kind of like we were talking about the amygdala, which is like the emotional center, which kind of handles a lot of our memories too. Hippocampus or the hippocampus, whichever way you want to pronounce it. It's another like memory center as well. You know, we're still trying to understand like what each one of them does, what's their relationship together. So and sometimes it's, you know, the symptoms kind of like overlap, and then maybe I feel like sometimes we almost like create, like we almost say, well, maybe it's a little bit more of this, maybe a little bit more of anxiety because we take the whole picture into account, or maybe a little bit more depression because we take like there's something else going on that we think that may tie into it a little bit better, like it just fits the puzzle a little bit better. But forget it. I feel like that's impossible. Like if someone told me, like they're like, no, this person is like has no degree of this, just 100% this, I'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you can definitely have majority of something.
Right.
But I don't think everything is like really black and white. Yeah. I think there's always going to be a gray area.
Especially when
you might have a little more, a little less gray.
Especially when we're talking about mental health. There's
Yeah.
more gray than not, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard.
So actually, this is actually something really interesting.
Like really, I didn't even know about that
Yes.
until I started looking this up. I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah. And okay, so we have these emotions, right? And these emotions, though, are happening from hormones, right? So there is, even though we talk about something mental, there are physical things that are happening to us because of the way that we are feeling. So you will sometimes see, that like what Jules and I are like talking about is like this study that was basically done and how anxiety almost changes the shape of parts of your brain.
Yeah.
So it can enlarge the hippocampus. It basically like turns on like a group of like anxiety cells. And then those anxiety cells starts like firing and then creating more of those hormones and stuff like that.
And we're keeping it very basic for you guys because you could go like down a rabbit hole on that. But like,
yeah,
it's like it actually physically alters your brain.
Yeah. It physically alters your brain and you start actually having physical signs of it. Weight gain, like memory loss. I think a good example of this was like my mom when my grandmother had Alzheimer's. My mom was her primary caretaker. It was a huge stress on her.
I can only imagine.
And it was major anxiety that was going on to the point where my mom lost her hair. Okay.
Wow.
But these are just things that like, these are physical things that we're talking about. And
Stress,
she ended up developing an autoimmune disorder called psoriasis. So to the point where now my mom is on biologicals every 3 months to keep that controlled. So these things, these emotions like really do change us physically.
Yeah, they manifest
so
physically.
they manifest physically. We have physical symptoms of these things. And at the end of the day, like when you take a look and when you compare people's like brains and all these things, like you're probably going to see differences for sure.
100%.
And a good, also interesting thing is, have you ever read like the studies comparing women versus men's brains?
No, but I've seen really funny things about it.
Oh, okay. Well, it's like a real thing. Like
It's
our brains are like
100%.
structurally different,
Yep.
which is why like women are more what they would say, quote unquote, like emotional or something like that.
Yeah.
Or however we can multitask and like how
Way better.
There's,
Yeah.
and I'm going to try to find these studies so that other, our people, our, listeners can like learn about it too. But we are different. Like everyone is different.
Like men think in like boxes.
Einstein's brain was different too.
Yeah, exactly. But like men think and they are able to I can never say the word compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize.
That I cannot say that word. I cannot say that word. Anyway, so they're able to do that way better, and they put things in boxes, and they're all separate and whatever.
Yeah.
While women are like
all at the same
a
time.
ball of yarn.
Yeah, all
Like
at the
just
same time.
Everything is intertwined.
A hot mess.
Exactly.
We're a
And
hot
that's
mess.
just how our brains work. Like everything is intertwined. Why did I not water that orchid today? And then there's pee outside in the kitchen.
Yeah.
All of that in some way, somehow, it's going to be intertwined.
Yep.
They're going to be related in some way.
Yeah.
For a
It's just
man,
the
it's
way
going to
we
be
think.
like, I just forgot the orchid yesterday. And the dog just peed in the kitchen.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with each other. But me, I'll be like, I didn't water the orchid because I had to go ahead and clean the piss.
Yeah,
You see?
exactly.
So it's like completely different. But Mario would have just been like, no, those are two separate things, Julie. And I'm like, no, they're not.
They're all intertwined.
So perfect. Yeah. I mean, we're different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Biologically, we are. So anyway.
Now I'm wanting to like read up on studies if there's ever been studies compared like anxiety men versus women and like
There's
if
gotta
there's
be.
any changes.
There has to be. I just didn't go that in depth.
No, I mean we
but,
can go.
This could be
so
a whole
in-depth.
series on its
Yeah.
own, like anxiety, But you guys want to hear it.
Yeah. So things that can be anxiety can be caused by a variety of factors, and this is very true. Genetics, family history. It's one of the first things I ask.
Big time.
Do you have a family history of any anxiety? And actually, not even just anxiety, any mental disorder.
Yep. Depression.
Anything. No, just anything.
Bipolar.
Eating disorders, bipolar, depression,
Schizophrenia.
ADHD. I ask any developmental delays.
Yeah.
Any troubles in school, any anger issues, anything like that can cause like this anxiety.
Yeah.
There's a new, fairly new, I want to say, and I think we had kind of like briefly discussed this about ACEs, which is like adverse childhood events.
Oh yeah, we briefly touched upon it.
So it's basically adverse childhood
Super
events
interesting.
that could lead you to have like actual like metabolic, you know, like problems. So hypertension, diabetes, anxiety, and like all these things because
Yeah.
of things that happened to you as a kid.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really fun. It's
Incredible.
really
Like,
really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so there's a lot of like, you know, practices nowadays where we're actually giving out like these forms for kids called ACEs.
Okay.
And they're supposed to circle things that they've gone through. You
Okay.
know, like, do you have a parent in jail? Like, do you
Wow,
have
okay.
this? Do you have that? Like certain childhood events.
Yeah.
That can, and then we screen them and
Yeah.
we're like, you're at risk.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. For depression, anxiety, name it.
and
something.
you know, like hypertension, diabetes, metabolic disease, obesity, like all those things.
Yeah.
So, other things that can cause anxiety, depression is brain chemistry. So, basically, different fluctuation of mood regulating hormones. So, anxiety disorders basically are imbalances of certain brain chemicals. Have to do a lot with serotonin and norepinephrine. Dopamine is a big one. But yeah, and then life experiences, stressful life events. Wow, I was just talking about
literally
this.
just saying that, yeah.
So stressful life events such as trauma, abuse, neglect can increase developing
course.
anxiety disorders because of everything that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
And then medical conditions such as thyroid problems, heart disease, obesity, everything ties in together because
Yeah.
things can stay pretty much like in your head for a really long time, but
Even if you
chronically you're gonna start manifesting physical symptoms.
Exactly. And the crazy thing about how your mind works is that even if you're not conscious about that thought or that experience or whatever it is, it's there though. It's there, you know? And lastly, substance abuse.
And substance abuse.
It's, you know,
I mean,
of
I think
course.
that's pretty like
Yeah.
there's, you know, when I did my psychiatry rotation, like there was most of our admins were substance induced acute psychosis.
Oh, wow.
So you do a drug and that's it. Like you lose your shit.
Yeah.
You know, like that's like the simplest way that I can put it. You lose your shit because of the drug that you just did or what you've been using and stuff like that, and it's gonna catch up to you.
Yeah, and those drugs alter that brain chemistry.
Yeah, it alters
so
the brain chemistry for sure.
There's that.
Yeah.
So yeah, antidepressants, like we said, beta blockers are something as well that are thought of in, you know, medication wise, you know, to take for this. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't even know that beta blockers. I thought beta blockers were literally only for like, you know, what is it, hypertension or what?
Oh, we use it for arrhythmias. We use it for hypertension.
Yeah.
But no, propranolol is a huge medicine that a lot of people take for social anxiety.
Didn't even know that, but that's
Yep,
pretty
to
cool.
give presentations, to do a dance. Like my doctor that helped me out on my autopsy,
I love that story so much.
he used to take propranolol. He told me that during, you know, when he was like flinging the heart at me. He told me, he's like, I have a lot of social anxiety, so I had to take a propranolol to like do the dance in front of everyone.
Oh my God. If you haven't listened to that episode, you really should.
But propranolol, you know, it's a beta blocker. So sometimes when you have anxiety, you have like that heart racing and all that stuff. So when you take a propranolol, it kind of calms that. And like when you, if you're sitting down and I'm just talking and you're sitting down and you're kind of just hanging out and your heart is fine, you're okay. You're relaxed.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden your starts like beating super fast and you're having palpitations, you're going to start having anxiety about that palpitation.
Right.
Which leads to more palpitations and more anxiety. And it's like this vicious circle.
Yep.
So sometimes when you take medicines like propranolol, it's going to help.
Yeah.
Almost like when people take like Atarax, which is an antihistamine, it's like a Benadryl.
Okay.
It has anxiolytic, you know, anti-anxiolytic effects too. They're like kind of little like side effects, but we kind of like use those side effects to help out with that.
I mean, that's having a big spotlight these days.
Yeah.
Side effects of medications being the actual like usage for them.
It's a whole world.
It's a whole world, yeah. But anyway, so these different medications that we're talking about, some of them like antidepressants or SSRIs, you know, and they're selective non-adrenaline and serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Yeah.
There we go. are the most commonly used medications for anxiety. And then we got benzos, like we were talking about.
And don't forget SNRIs. So we have
Oh.
SSRIs and that's SNRIs, which is also like selective noradrenaline and reuptake inhibitors. So they do the same, they accomplish the same thing, just in different ways.
Oh,
so
okay.
SSRIs, SNRIs. So examples of SSRIs is going to be like a Zoloft.
Oh, okay.
And then an SNRI is going to be like a Prozac.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Those
So
are
I
just
get-
examples.
So I guess
people.
it's which one like works for
Exactly.
you.
And
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. Like, you need to find the one that works for you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And there's so many. But yeah, Jules was saying now that there's benzos too, which are
Which
like,
were what we were talking about, Tretzena,
Yeah.
Xanax.
dude, those are amazing. I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not trying to like sit here and tell you to go take a benzo,
No,
but you know, I understand though.
I understand that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When like these rappers are talking like, oh, Papa Zanny or whatever, I'm like, I get it.
But you know, sometimes I feel like people like use them for like the other side effects, which I'm not like. When
what?
I took a Xanax because I had a panic attack, I felt like what I liked about it is that it leveled me.
Exactly.
You know, like it leveled me. Like I felt normal.
Right. It brought
You
me
know,
back to
it
a
brought me back
calm,
to
like-
earth.
Exactly.
You know, like
Yeah.
I was in the high heavens thinking that like
Or high hells.
or high hells, exactly.
Yeah.
I was in high hell. Okay. And then it grounded me and I was like, oh wow, this is what it feels like to not have anxiety.
And then you look at it and it's like, I was freaking the fuck out.
I was freaking the fuck out. Like, yeah, so you
Yeah.
come back and you're like, oh shit, like,
need
where
to
was I?
chill, yeah.
Yeah, I need to chill.
Yeah.
But then, like, you know, yes, there is the side effects of like the drowsiness and like all these things.
I'm not into the
and I'm not
drowsiness,
into
though.
that. Yeah.
I
I don't know why people like that.
Yeah, me neither. Like,
But
I'm-
whatever. I know that it's also like very addictive. Like these are addictive medications.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So I know it is unfortunate,
Yeah.
but they do create dependencies, and that's why we don't. I don't prescribe them. I don't.
Yeah, no.
There's
no.
like for me, I've had
especially you that you're a pediatrician.
a pediatrician, but you'd
Absolutely
be
not.
surprised. There's people that prescribe kids benzos because of this anxiety, and maybe they're not doing it because they're not. But there are kids that have severe anxiety, and the parents will tell me like, "Hey, is there any way that you can prescribe them this?" And I look and it's a Xanax, and I'm like, "No, it's not. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Like,
yeah, it's not
we
gonna
can
fix
try.
the problem.
If you are telling me to prescribe you Xanax for your kid, okay, and you're not even willing to show up for therapy once a week, no." It's still gonna be a no, even if you were taking therapy.
Yeah.
But it's like if you are at that point, you need to make a decision, and you need to make a decision of how to go about it, go to the root of the problem, fix the root of the problem. Yes, we have other meds that are they cause less side effects, less addictiveness, and all these things. And it's like, I'm sorry, like I'm not. So sometimes there are people that prescribe these things, probably not to like a kid or like a school aged kid.
Okay.
But maybe like an adolescent, and it's still a no for me.
Yeah.
Hard no.
No.
Hard no.
The only way that I could see it being somewhat of an okay thing would be like something acute, like, oh, because he or she has anxiety about flying and we gotta go on this 8-hour flight.
Yeah.
You know, so
But even then,
like,
Benadryl.
It's exactly. So then
Like, no, that's still a no for me.
you
The
know,
only time that
I'm
I
just
have
trying to like
ever
play devil's advocate for the doctors that do prescribe it to these kids. Is like, well, maybe it's that. but,
I
like,
have
still,
prescribed
like, I don't know.
benzos, but I
Yeah.
prescribe benzos for kids, you know, like that are having a procedure that they need to calm
Yeah.
down,
Right.
and all
Something
these things.
very minimal, like
But
once type of
long
thing.
term,
Like, yeah, no.
never.
No. Not like a
Never,
30-day
never,
supply.
Never.
You know?
I've prescribed it for kids with a slew of different problems, and
Mm-hmm.
the only time that I've ever used it acutely was for a situation that I had with an adolescent that had an acute psychosis that was drug induced, and we had like 5 security guards restraining him.
Oh boy.
And I had to give him a whole slew of things. Like I gave him Benadryl, I gave him Haldol, I gave him a ton of things. Those are different situations. Those are extreme situations. But for an outpatient that you're gonna come
Yeah.
to me and you're like, oh, my kid has a lot of anxiety, and I'm like, no, look, I'm sorry. Like you're gonna have to put in the work. You're gonna have to dig.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have to solve like what's going inside. But I'm not giving you a Xanax. Like I'm not giving you a benzo. Period.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so effects on anxiety on the brain. We kind of briefly touched upon this, but you know, I'll list it out for you guys. It could change the way we think and see things negatively and over worry about it. Our brains could overreact to threats when there's actually no real danger, like the imagination spiel that I had given you guys earlier. It does create lasting changes to the brain, like she had mentioned, enlargement of the hippocampus, and then differences in the amygdala, and even the prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of all things complex thinking and whatnot. If you listen to our episode on lobotomies, we really touched about, we really talked about the prefrontal cortex there, in not very good ways.
Yeah.
I mean, Evie's still scarred about that episode.
Yeah, I'm still scared about that episode. Seriously.
Okay, so the amygdala also grows a little bit larger and becomes more active, making it more likely to send out false alarms and saying that something's dangerous when it really isn't. The prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of all of our complex thinking, actually shrinks. So that's not a good thing. We want that complex thinking. We want that critical thinking. It kind of makes us human. And it's very just important for our lives in general. And so it also creates a problem in controlling and reeling in those emotions and making good decisions because, again, complex thinking. Anxiety could impair our ability to think clearly, and then the hippocampus holds onto memories of these threats more easily. So then we become even more anxious because we're constantly thinking about it now that we have memory of them. And then the damage that anxiety does to the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus can make our brains more likely to develop dementia, like several different types of dementias, like Alzheimer's. So it's serious, folks. Let's go to therapy. Let's do the thing. Let's prevent these long-term effects. And then what happens during a panic attack?
So basically what happens during a panic attack is the amygdala is freaking out. She's like, holy fuck, this is happening. And it's going to send a signal.
She needs to control her tits.
No, yeah, calm her tits.
Calm those titties.
Nope, she doesn't. They're all going crazy. Yeah, like that meme. That I always think about that meme.
God,
Oh my God, Julie almost fell off the chair.
My titties went crazy. It's funny medicine. I'm here for the comedic effect, okay?
So the amygdala fucking goes crazy. Her tits are going all over the place. And then she sends a message to the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is probably like, holy shit, calm your tits. But can't shut it off. Can't shut off the amygdala. So overrides those feelings. And then that's it. Like, that's when you start feeling like those signs and symptoms of anxiety. The pounding, the chest pain, the can't breathe, the this, the that.
The titties flopping.
They're everywhere. They're everywhere. Watch out. They might hit you. So a good example of this is like if it was like a smoke detector. So amygdala sends a message like, hey, there's a fire. And then the prefrontal cortex starts like beeping like smoke alarm and then turns around. There's no fire.
What the fuck?
Right? But she's still freaking out. So smoke alarm is still on even though there's no smoke. So that's kind of like what a panic attack is. It's kind of crazy.
It is. It's crazy.
And it's
again,
awful.
Goes back to the whole imagination of things, So let's keep our titties calm and go to
Stay
therapy
calm.
to bring them back to normal level.
Calm your tits, please.
And that was anxiety, folks. Of
That's
course,
all
I'll be putting all the sources and all that stuff. If you guys wanted more information, you could go to our show notes.
Yeah.
I will have everything there.
If there's anything that you guys heard from this podcast that you want us to kind of make another episode
Absolutely. I mean, anxiety. You guys wanted it. Here it is.
Yeah, here it is.
So thank you all for supporting us. Please keep on subscribing, keep on checking us out, commenting, liking, doing all the damn things you guys are doing. Please.
Give it up for Julie. She is working hard.
This is like my baby now.
No,
Like,
this is your baby. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I love this and I love what we're doing, but oh my God, like, Jules, like, you are so good at this.
No, man. No, anyway, enough about me. You guys.
Yes, and thank you guys too.
Keep doing everything you guys are doing. Thank you all so much for the love and
Thank you
support.
for the feedback. Yeah, the feedback is always good.
Feedback is, and it's what helps us like change things, move things around, or hey, that wasn't good. You should do it like this. Great. Please send it over to us. We're on every social media thread you could possibly think of. Look
Seriously.
for us.
Things that I haven't even heard of someone.
Look for Funny Medicine Podcast in all socials. We're there. Like and subscribe in YouTube, please. We're almost there to like a big point in YouTube. So please keep doing that. And if you definitely want to see even funnier stuff, more unhinged, more funny, crazy titties, in the air. Not literally, okay, but you in the just.
I didn't even think about that. Wow. Yeah, don't get that twisted, people.
Subscribe to our Patreon, and that's Funny Medicine Podcast on Patreon. And there's 2 levels to that. You can subscribe to whichever one suits you best, but highly recommend it because it is awesome. And we do one full episode there on video that's about a completely different topic, and it's full episodes only on Patreon exclusively there.
Exclusivo.
Yeah. So, and thanks to all the patrons that are subscribing there too.
Thank you to all our patrons.
Thank you, because you guys are the MVPs helping us, keep up with all this stuff. But anyways, we'll see you guys on the next one.
Thank you, guys.
Like, comment, review us on all streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, etc.
Check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Funny Medicine Podcast. Our Gmail is funnymedicine305@gmail.com. And remember, we are not diagnosing you.
Definitely not. Just funny stuff.
See you later, guys.